Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, bringing you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And we thank you so much for joining us here on the program. We're going to dive right into our conversation with a returning guest. Yes, we had her on 3 times one year. Well, we're going to try to match that, maybe exceed that this year. And there's not much time left, so we're going to have to move right in to our conversation with our very special guest, Maureen St. Germain. And I've always loved the last name, St. Germain. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to touch on that too. But thanks for coming back. It's great to have you back. Okay, so it's been 5 years, okay? But I'm just glad you're still around. You're still around and joining us here on the program.
A lot can happen in 5 years, and a lot has happened in 5 years. So it's my pleasure to be back, and I'm glad you're still here too.
Ah, yes, indeed. I am very happy to have survived the onslaught of life, as it were, from time to time. Today is no exception. We're going to talk about a lot of good things that our listeners can tap into, and I hope that they will, because we're going to talk about your latest book, which is Living Your Best 5D Life. You've got several other books that we can certainly mention and bring up, but I I am always intrigued by this concept of the fifth dimension, 5D, which is what that refers to. And I may have
Hmm.
shared this with you in a conversation I had with a physicist. And he was telling me that, Richard, I can prove to you the existence of the first 3 dimensions: height, width, and depth. Time is the fourth dimension, as he sees it as a physicist. But I can't prove its existence. But I can show you, if you will, a representation of the fourth dimension. And then he went on to describe the fifth dimension. And we were walking back from lunch, and I stopped him. I says, "You do realize that what you just described is usually referred to by a lot of people as God." And that was his reference point. Um, and I'm wondering how you define the fifth dimension.
It's a vibrational data set. You and I can slide in and out of it. It is the equivalent of what the traditions have taught us is heaven. So there is no judgment, there is no comparison, yet there is contrast. So, we don't look at colors, purple being good and red being bad. We don't look at numbers, five is good and six being bad. So you have contrast, you have differences, but you don't have the presence of things that what I call not God choices. So, when you have a conversation with someone, even if you have something on your mind that you're disturbed about from them, you find a way to say it in a very loving and gentle way. You don't blast them with a negative or dark energy because in 5D, none of that exists. It's not an option. Doesn't exist.
Mm.
So 5D is really something that initially a lot of people didn't realize that we were sliding into it and then sliding back. And I can prove it. And the way I prove it is think about a time that you put something down, your sunglasses,
Hmm.
and you put them away. And then you think, oh, I got to go back out. I forgot something. So you go back out, you go to the drawer where your sunglasses are, and they are not there. You find a spare somewhere, you go do your errand and you come back, take your sunglasses off and you go to put them away. And there is the original pair where they weren't there before. What happens is in 5D, when you came back and you thought your errands were complete and you're in a good space, that's this yummy, pleasant place. And then when you're anxious because you remembered that you forgot something, then you drop back into 3D because you're worried you've got some kind of polarity thing going on. And that's when you can't see them. So from 3D, you cannot see into five, but from five, you can see down into three. And you can also participate in three from five, but you're not likely to unless you encounter somebody who needs you to be in your 5D space while they rant and rave. And that does happen.
Well, we talk an awful lot here on the program about vibration. A lot of times it's in relation to sound, tones, things of this nature. Jonathan Goldman, who's a regular guest on this program as well, has talked about his experiences as well as experiments and creations in this realm, whether it's humming or chanting and so forth and so on. And I find it interesting too that there are so many different ways to experience these vibrations through sound in particular. Uh, Matter of fact, someone was, I remember when I was living back in Phoenix, and I know that it takes place in a lot of different places around the world, if not, well, in this country, but around the world, where people will, they'll really soup up their cars with an unbelievable sound system and massive boost in the bass. And when they've got the sound turned way up, the car is vibrating. Boom, boom, boom. Well, what was interesting was somebody said that they don't realize how much harm they are doing to their bodies, and specifically they talked about the heart. Because when you have that volume up way up here, you are in effect beginning the process of trying to and this isn't something they're
Entrain.
doing, change the rhythm of the heart.
Right. To
What
entrain the heart with
to
the other
entrain?
sound.
Right. But the problem with that is that is dangerous because that boom, 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 that's not the rhythm of the heart. And if you
That's true.
retrain the heart to a different rhythm, it's going to change you in terms of the blood flow and all of those other things. By the same token, if there are people who have what we'll call irregular heartbeats, and you can get something like that going that is a regular heartbeat rhythm, and you're
Mhm.
retraining the heart in that fashion, it seems to me that would be a very positive thing to do, and that our entire bodies vibrate. I'm guessing only because I don't know that certain parts of our body, including the chakras, they're all vibrating at different rates, but collectively there is a vibration as well. It's like the whole is not equal to the sum of the parts or something along those lines. Uh,
Right. There's a synergy that
yeah.
occurs when
Hmm.
we are in alignment with our vibration, you know.
Yeah.
And just like a chord can be harmonious, a musical chord can be harmonious, it can also be disharmonious and clash. And so there are, it's a little bit like I have this device on my desk and it shows a bunch of spirals that, you can see, but they all are coordinated together.
Hmm.
And I think that what happens in 5D when you vibrate at 5D, you can that energy can actually move around you and then level up the people around you. So you walk into the bank, the teller's had, some obnoxious person in front of you. You come up and you give them a smile and suddenly their energy is shifted completely. And it's not just your smile, it's your vibe that permeates their space as well.
One of
That's
my other
5D.
guests was talking about a situation where at the time, her small daughter, who is now in her 30s, but this was a little child, they were in the grocery store. And she turned around and she saw this man standing behind them. And she, speaking the truth as she sees it, says, Mommy, he has a big nose. Now, she was taken aback a little bit, like, okay, how do I handle this? And she stayed quiet for a moment. And the man could have had all kinds of different reactions to that. But his reaction, as she shared, was she looked down at the child and says, Yes, I do have a big nose. Would you like to touch it? And went through, yeah. And and it was like the event that could have been rather dramatic in a way of
Problematic.
speaking, right? Was diffused, and he just took it in stride. And the mother, my guest on the program, she basically did not turn it into, let's say, an event that now the daughter is going to have to go to therapy about, you know? And I thought, wow, and just using your example as well as hers, there are so many ways when it's been encouraged by many that when you're just walking along the street and you come across someone, you don't necessarily have to say anything. Hey, good morning, or how you doing? And I get that from time to time. Hey, how you doing? Total stranger. And I'll say, hey, I'm doing great. How about yourself? And then, well, I'm doing good too. And we just continue on our way. We don't stop and chat. Sometimes just a smile, like you were talking about with the teller at the bank, can make all the difference in the world because you have no idea what they've just been through. So
Mhm.
those are wonderful lessons. And by the way, that a symbol that you held up just a moment ago, that's on the cover
Mhm.
of your book as well, isn't it?
No, it's similar, but it's not
Similar.
quite the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me, you remember do you remember the toy? I grew up with this. You remember I think it was called Spirograph.
I
And it
had one
had
too.
you so you're familiar with that. And folks, if you're
Mhm.
not familiar, you can do a
I
search
love
engine.
that toy.
Oh,
Love
well,
that toy.
I draw. I don't use that today, but I when I draw, I'll make a big outer border on the page. All right. And it's not necessarily a circle. It takes on different shapes and so forth. Then I'll start making lines going across, and then it'll be smaller and smaller little pieces. And then I'll take my colored felt tip markers or colored pencils. And there's only one rule that I adhere to, and that is that no two adjacent little sections will have the same or similar color. And then I go to town coloring. But that reminded me of spirograph and how you can take different colored pencils, putting them in those holes and then spinning it around and doing different things.
This was my latest duel, and I had the same rule. Don't put the same color next to each other.
Yeah. And there is on the internet, I'm not sure if it's YouTube or Facebook and there are shorts or reels, but there's a gentleman who has this huge, it could be an 8 foot by 8 foot canvas that's laying horizontally on the floor. And he has hanging from the ceiling this can that he or this
Oh,
box
I've seen that.
that he
I've
puts a
seen that.
paint can in, and he
Hmm.
puts holes in it in the paint can, and then he gives a little shove and a twirl, and it makes incredible designs like the spirograph.
Right, right. And that's actually been in a museum. I saw that whole thing demonstrated in a museum.
Oh, now
It's amazing.
you and I we are talking about these designs and how they have impacted us because we remember them and they excite us. So it's
Well,
not.
and that's because they're part of our original templates.
Mhm.
All the other stuff, the crazy random uh, art doesn't affect us in the same way. And these designs affect us because we are made from spirals. We are made from geometry. We often call it sacred geometry for that reason.
Mhm. I want to touch on something. I'm going to do my utmost to keep it, the term I use is apolitical or non-political. But
Okay.
something has happened. And here we are, you and I are conversing in August of 2024. People will probably be listening to this down the road, we hope. But there has been a dramatic shift in the energy in this country on the political scene. And and again, not wanting to get into the politics, but the reality is that from my perspective, regardless of which side of the aisle we might be on, I
Hmm.
feel lighter for the first time in almost 9 years. It's like it'll go whatever way it goes. I don't have any control over that. But the
Well, I
real
want to comment here
Okay,
and say,
please.
I was in New York City right after 9/11,
Mhm,
and I was a frequent visitor to New York at that time. I then moved to New York, and what I can tell you is the energy in New York City changed after 9/11, and people were kinder. They were more concerned.
mhm.
In the old days, I could walk down the hallway of a subway station and drop a scarf or something, and everybody would just keep going their way. But after 9/11, somebody would see the scarf fall and come running up to me with the scarf and say, I think you dropped this.
Wow.
And so there was a kindness and a concern for your neighbor. I had a Japanese guest who went downtown on Christmas shopping, and I couldn't go with her. And I was living in the city, but not close enough to 34th Street. She wanted to go down to Macy's, and she slipped when she was crossing the street. And the man behind her grabbed her by the collar and picked her up before she hit the ground
Hmm.
and said, "You need to be careful here." And they both went on their way. That wouldn't have happened. And so you're right. The every time, as we shift and level up, it's easier and easier for each of us to be our fifth dimensional self, our kind, loving, concerned not only about me, but concerned about you as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm excited by that. As I said before, we don't have control over the future. We don't know what the future will hold, but at least for the moment, for the time being, there's this sense of certainly optimism, despite what one might hear from the news media on a myriad of subjects, including the economy. I mean, a lot of people they love to go off on that, and they'll say that's the most important element in our universe, if you will. The economy is the most important, and I'm just sitting here going, I disagree. I think it's community. I think it's even what we're talking about here in terms of living your best 5D life, and the vibration and altering, raising our consciousness as individuals as well as a community, a city, a state, a nation, even the world. Uh, I don't know about you, but Greg Brayton shared on this program many years ago. He said that it would only take, based upon the population then, it would only take like 1%, if that, of the population to make that shift, to make that transformation that would then begin to spread and transform the world like a pebble in a still pond. Your thoughts?
Yes, we encounter that in our everyday life, and we see it as each of us levels up. There is, I'll use the word, the old way and the new way. Some people actually see it in their mind's eye when they lay down and they're ready to go to sleep. They'll think to themselves, in the old days when I did X, Y always happened. And this time, when somebody else did X, it didn't have that reverberation. It didn't have that thing.
Mm.
And you were talking earlier about the chakras,
Hmm.
and it turns out that there is a new chakra that everyone has received, and it's below your feet, and it connects us to Mother Earth. So, of course, we have greater concern for one another. It's
Hmm.
called the Earth Star Chakra.
Wow. I read a book called Joy's Way that talked about not only the main seven ones that we've learned about over the years, but
Uh-huh.
also that there are minor chakra points all over the body that are primarily at the joints of the body, the elbows, the
Hmm.
knees, the knuckles of the fingers and toes, and those kinds of things.
Hmm.
And when you said that about, again, it was called the star chakra,
Earth Star.
star, earth,
Earth,
earth star, earth star,
Earth
that's
Star Chakra.
below the feet, there is one above the head,
Hmm.
okay, that is there, that connects us, as the Earth star does to the Earth, connects us to the divine.
That's right.
It's just
That's right.
it's extraordinary. We are talking with Maureen St. Germain, and she's all over the place when it comes to social media. She's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I don't care what you call it, Elon. It's still Twitter. Uh, you know, a rose by any other name. There you go. It's just this whole aspect, and again, as I said earlier about our good friend Jonathan Goldman. When we talk about these different things in terms of vibration, I mean, it's an ongoing conversation in that regard. And
Hmm.
I received a comment, and I share this only because I'm coming from a place of appreciation for the comment. Whereas I know some people, they would take it as a hit, a criticism.
Okay.
And this particular person commented, it was a good interview, but Richard, you need to let your guest talk more. All right. And I recognize and acknowledge I'm a verbose kind of guy, which is not a bad thing.
It keeps you interested and engaged, and I think it's okay.
And I
You know,
appreciated what this person had to say. I thank them, and I thank them now. I won't mention them by name. I don't want to, embarrass them or anything of that nature, but I appreciate the fact. But I'm also very much aware of that fact. It's not lost on me, I guarantee you. But it is something that uh I know that there are people who have trouble receiving, I'm going to call it, that kind of guidance from others.
mm,
Now, if you have taken on a mentor, a counselor, a therapist, and so on and so forth, um, and you choose to, give them permission to support you and help you along, then you need to stay open to what they have to say.
that's right.
At the same time, by the same token, if it's unsolicited, I'll be honest with you, you kind of have to take that also in the same vein. All right, so you didn't
Well, you know,
necessarily
you're
go ahead.
in the public eye, and you want people to give you feedback. I always tell my team, I'd much rather hear it from somebody that's not critical of me, but still telling me, you need to do this or change that or back off here or move in this direction. Because I don't want somebody to choose to not hear what I have to offer because they didn't like something about me, my clothes, my background, or whatever, or my monopolizing a situation. It doesn't matter. But I'd like to circle back to something that you said in the beginning, if you're okay with that.
Yes.
And that is your physicist friend talked about the fourth dimension and time. And I am a renegade and will say to you, that's not what I know time is. And furthermore, that's not what I know fourth dimension is. So we'll start with my definition of fourth dimension. It's a portal. It's a nexus. It's like when you watch that Stargate series and you see those guys going to another place, they're going through a hole. And I liken it to an hourglass. It's the nexus. It's that narrow point that connects point. I like to say fourth dimension is like Grand Central Station. Nobody ever goes there to spend the night. They might get stuck. They might get stuck at an airport, but they don't intend to spend the night sleeping on a bench in an airport. So
Hmm.
that's my definition of fourth. And it also means that it makes it easy for you to move from third into fifth. And that's what we're doing. We're riding that rainbow. That train's going. We just hop on and keep going. And our emotions lock us into fourth dimension. And if we emote too much about some issue, then we've moved into fourth, and it makes it easy to go into fifth or not. Now, I'm a good friend of Jonathan, and I'm probably not the well, I am I did music training, and I did go to music school. And I will sing it because I want people to really grok this. And
Hmm.
that is third dimension is like the scale of the third. So do re mi, fa is fourth dimension, fifth dimension is here, and the octave is here. Now, if you listen to this, three, 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 three. Wait a minute, where am I? One, two, three, four, four, four. I was saying three and singing four. Four, four, four wants to go down to three. Four, four, four wants to go up to five. And if you get to five, you want to go to one. And there's a reason because four is a place of transition. And when we hear it in the music, we recognize it. We don't want to land on that four and stay there. The music calls us to resolve down to the third or resolve up to the fifth. So the music is giving us that training subtly to help us really get what fourth dimension is. It's a place of movement, and the movement is faster than third dimension, just like emotions can cause us to, ramp up our energy. Now, what's interesting is a number of years ago, these beings called the Lords of Time came through me. I was not expecting them. I wasn't trying to channel them. I sat down to give a message from my guide, Sana Kumara, or one of the many other guides that I channel. And these beings came through, and they came through in a thunderous way. They said, "We are the Lords of Time." And there was no denying it. It was like, what is this? Where did this come from? And one of the things that they have done, and I put this in my books on the fifth dimension, because there's three of them.
Hmm.
In each one, I bring in some of the channeled messages that they have said. And one of the things that they have said is if you've ever sat down to do a meditation and you set the timer, you want to meditate for 30 minutes. And at 25 minutes, you kind of open your eyes and say, okay, I'm done. And you look to see how much time is left because the timer hasn't gone off. That's actually another version of you. You jump timelines, and that version of you is done. And the same thing can happen when you are in a situation where you have no reason to know something, but you just know. It's like you're driving along on the highway yesterday, and I'm feeling like there's a police car around. And I wasn't expecting a black SUV police car. And this big SUV came up behind me, and I pulled over in front of the car in front of me, after I passed it and said, I'm going to keep it at 5 miles over the speed limit. I don't want to go any faster. And this big SUV goes past me. I'm thinking it's just going to, rock on down the road. And then I looked, and there was a police car. How could you know that? So lots of times we have a version of ourselves that's riding, I'll say, shotgun ahead of us,
Hmm.
and it gives us these little warnings. And we're literally merging timelines, and we're doing it a lot. And that's the first part of becoming 5D. The second part of becoming 5D is when you have an old memory that surfaces and you think, I haven't thought about that in years. I shouldn't have, whatever you did. You have a little regret. But you could go back, since everything is happening all at one time anyway, you can go back and redo that event with a new outcome, with a new version of you that has a little more wisdom, a little more kindness, and make a different statement. And the coolest thing that happens is it's like dominoes. That event from the past that you now have changed in your mind's eye, you've jumped to a new timeline where you changed the way you behaved. It does affect your present. And I talk about that in the book and how that can be. There's even been studies of people who made a contract with themselves. I'm going to study for 5 minutes on this particular subject every night at 7 o'clock. And maybe they have a big test that's going to come up, and they say to themselves, I'm still going to keep studying for a minimum of 6 weeks. So even though the test is going to be in the middle of that, I'm going to keep my commitment. The very fact that they have made that commitment and they're showing up and doing it, it will improve the test results. There have actually been scientific studies that show how a person who has made that level of commitment has a higher outcome than the person who's just studying up until the test. It's mind blowing. What it means is we can affect the past and we can also affect the future.
Mm. You know, I want to let you folks know this is this fascinating conversation we're having once again with the author of Living Your Best 5D Life, Timeless Tools to Achieve and Maintain Your New Reality. And Maureen St. Germain is our very special guest here on Tell Me Your Story. You have in your book, and actually, before I get to that, I want to talk about this Illuminate app that you have available through your website, which is stgermainmysteryschools.com. Talk to us because everybody seems to be coming out. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people are coming out with apps that they can put on their phone. I've got a few of again the more metaphysical or esoteric, such as, and I have your app on my phone. When we download it and install it, what is it going to allow us to do?
You can download it on Google or on iTunes, and it has over 30 guided meditations, and they're all directed to a particular purpose. So one is with the angels, and others with the energy of selling your house or bringing in the beloved. So there's lots of different kinds of subject matter. I have 7 free meditations. So when you download the app is free, and then there's 7 meditations, including a very special, powerful, award-winning meditation called the Golden Bowl, where I teach you how to activate this energy center around your head. And I like to cite sources. And I found a source in the Old Testament where they refer to the golden bowl and the
Hmm.
silver cord. And so I saw this visually in my mind's eye. That's what that is. So I call it the satellite dish to call home, but
Hmm.
that will activate the connection and improve your connection in your meditations. And also, it will open your sinuses. So, a little side effect if you have a sinus issue, you can do that meditation and your sinuses will open up. So, there's all these meditations that are free. And then, if you like the product and you like the work that I'm doing, then you would subscribe and get full use of it, of all the meditations that are on there, and we're adding to it regularly. So it's very exciting because one of my followers in the UK, a man with a lot of technology experience in writing apps, a very high-ranking guy in a big company, decided to start his own firm. And he came to me and he said, Maureen, I love your work. I have all your meditations. I think you need an app. And it wasn't the first time I heard somebody say this to
Hmm.
me. So we checked in with guidance and Scott, yeah, you should do this. So that's what we created last year. And it doesn't have all of my guided meditations, but it has most of them. And the best part is that they're all there. And you don't, especially if you're an iPhone, you don't need to be on the internet to listen to them.
Hmm.
They are downloaded onto your phone and they're amazing. I use them myself, you know.
Mm.
So they're
Yeah.
wonderful, different kinds of meditations, different purposes. I even have a meditation for people who are trying to start a business and need a good board of directors. Bring in, the people you need, the funding, the advisors, whatever you need. And it's just a wonderful, surprising, delightful meditation called a cup of tea.
Mm.
So
I
that
like
it's
that.
so
I
glad you asked me because I'm so excited about it. It's very sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's very cool indeed. Something else that as I'm looking through the table of contents, something that I'm familiar with because many years ago, my present wife and I, we got this videotape of a meditation. And the reason why it's intriguing to me is because you have chapter 13, the 8D Merkaba. And this video talks about the Merkaba, talks about the tetrahedron, goes through certain sounds and music and so forth, as well as the visuals. So you can either have your eyes open or closed, whichever you wish, and it helps that same kind of process. Talk to us about, and you've sort of alluded already to the 8D, the eighth dimension. But talk to us about the Merkaba as you see it and how it's utilized in this context of this latest book that we're talking about.
I have been given access to multiple versions of the Merkaba. A lot of people know it as this shape, this double tetrahedron.
Hmm.
And in the original classic Merkaba, which I have on trainings on and video and meditations, I teach how to activate this field.
Mm.
And then I was given um, a 5D Merkaba. And the 5D Merkaba has an energy field where you're in the center and you have two fields, one above and one below, and how to activate that. Now, the 8D Merkaba utilizes a more advanced geometry that looks like this. And
Mm.
I really want those of you who have gotten the book and are interested in this, I really want you to build it. So in the appendix, I actually have instructions on how to build one of these devices. Now, the reason it's important to build it is because this is a high vibe uh, energy activation that would reside around your body. So obviously, it's not a little one like this, it's big, but this is very, very powerful to um, turn on certain energy fields within the body. So it's called the 8D Merkaba. And you can actually build the whole thing and then put little ones on problem areas if you want. And so we talk about that in the book. We teach you how to do it. If people buy the book, then we're putting out a link. If you buy the book, send us your purchase, whatever. And we have a page where we're giving some free downloads. One of them is the sound file, so you can follow along with the sound file. You already have the instructions on how to build it. So the 8D Merkaba is a remarkable field that opens up an even greater connection to source than the other ones. And it takes you to a whole nother level.
Mm. I'm actually looking at the layout in terms of the construction. I used to have, kind of miss it, a puzzle. It was a plastic, clear plastic, multicolored puzzle. Uh, and it was significant because at the time I had that puzzle, I was also taking photography class in college, black and white. And I would take that puzzle and I would place it on top of the photographic paper and then expose the paper to light that would pass through that three-dimensional
Shape.
multi-triangular piece, that puzzle. And I still have those pictures. I don't have the puzzle. I wish, because what you just showed looks a lot like the puzzle that I used to have. And it was fascinating because you could make it into pretty much any shape, a lot of different shapes, the way, depending upon how you slid things together. It was a lot of fun
Mhm.
to put it and play with it under the light on top of photographic paper, and then of course, process it. I That's something I do miss is doing my own photography, from literally taking the picture to printing it, and I was able to do all of the steps in between. It was so much fun. Yeah, that
The
is so
thing,
cool.
the thing is, and this goes back to something we were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
when we work with the geometry, the sacred geometry, it trues us up. In the world of drafting, they call truing it up. Remember when you said sometimes you draw some kind of a boundary when you're around your art
Hmm.
when you first start out. So if you were drawing a circle, maybe it's not perfect. So how do you true it? You put a template over it and make sure that all the lines are in the right place.
Hmm.
So when you create a pattern of any kind, you draw it and then you true it by using rulers and curves
Hmm.
to smooth out that shape. And when we are playing with this stuff, with these sacred geometry shapes, what we're doing is activating the energy fields in our body and letting them know, oh, this is how you vibrate.
Mm.
This is the pattern that you want to emulate. This is the blueprint that makes up you. And that is remarkable because you and I can't imagine this maybe right now, but imagine being able to have a shape like this and holding it in front of you and improving your eyesight.
Mm.
That's coming. I think that's coming.
That's cool. And I would take advantage of that. Even though about 30 years ago, 28 years ago, I had a lens implant in my right eye. What's always perplexed me, and I want to dive into this because I think this takes us to this next level here. I've always been curious about this. When I was a kid growing up, and even in my teen years and so forth, when it came to alcohol, they always told you, be careful because, alcohol destroys brain cells. And I have since learned that that isn't true, that it may, but that they are still regenerated. Okay. And that our bodies overall, the trillions of cells change out completely over the course of 7 years. At least that's the basic teaching. So then the question that I would raise specifically regarding the eye, my eyesight and so forth was, why is it that if the eyes that I see through now, or don't see through because I have no vision in my left eye at all, why is it that they're not regenerating to healthy cells to where the vision is restored? There's something there's something not right there because when you cut yourself on your hand or something, right? Or you get a bug bite, eventually that heals and it appears as if nothing ever happened there. So why the skin can do that, but not the eye? And you talk about in the work that you are doing with this particular book, you talk about the aspect of transforming the 12 strands of our DNA.
Mhm.
So if there are, and I'm guessing that's the basic number, 12 strands, um, I've been told that we can rewrite that information. I don't know if it's overwrite because in a computer, the only way that you can delete the information, the zeros and ones, is with a magnet, literally, to remove. Just the same thing with audio tape as I used to work with. You take a magnet and it removes those electrical impulses on that tape. So how do we clean our DNA?
Well, the number of things that a lot of people don't realize, and my guides taught me this, that our self-healing DNA was moved by the beings, the archons, if you will. And I meditated on this for a long time before the answer came through. I'm thinking, okay, they weren't allowed to take it away. What did they do? They hid it. Where would they hide it that we
Mhm.
wouldn't look? And that is in a lower dimension. So once I knew that, then I would just call it back from a lower dimension into my body. And in my bedtime prayer, that's in the first book, Waking Up in 5D, I
Mhm.
actually say um, to reactivate my self-healing DNA and energize it, uh, giving it the ability then to work with all the other DNA in my body. And so as we turn this on with our clear identification, that will start to happen. There are stories of children who regrew their arm or their foot
Mhm.
because they didn't know that they weren't able to. They had clear vision of what needed to happen and they just went for it. So I don't know exactly what the deal was with your eye. There may have been some choice that you made, but the way
Mhm.
I handle those things is say, you know what? I got it. Thank you very much. I'm done with that one. and let's move on and rewrite this ship.
Hmm.
So maybe there's a solution there that is coming for you.
Yeah. Well, when I was working for the Christian station, and I've shared this story many times, I had a group of people come up to me knowing of my legal blindness at that time. And they wanted to lay hands on me to heal my eyes.
Hmm.
And I said, no. Now I said, I can't stop you from praying for me, and I appreciate it. I'll take the prayers. However, my purpose in this life is not to be healed. And that's where I was then. It's to serve, it's to do what I do for you and for all of the other programmers and this person and that and to provide the very best quality of service as well as the final product as I can. Um, and I still believe that. However, I
Well,
did.
then you're going to stay there.
What's that?
Then you'll stay there in that place.
Yeah. But then
And you know
I began to
what? One
go ahead. No,
what
please go ahead.
one of the things that I tell people when they claim, that this is their choice, and it is your choice,
Mm-hmm.
I champion your right to hold that belief as long as it pleases you.
Mm-hmm. Well, the interesting turn of events was that in '95, shortly before leaving that station, my vision started to go. Now, in my right eye, and it was cataracts that were growing. My ophthalmologist said, well, I would do one of two things. The bottom line is that technology finally caught up with me. And
Hmm.
I had been pursuing like a driver's license, even just to drive a moped. I figured, come on, it doesn't go that fast. I'm not going to get on the freeway. Da, 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 da. Denied at every turn. So I finally threw up my hands. I give up. You know what? If I'm bicycling at the age of 65, that's fine. I'll be healthier. It'll be just fine. And I let that go. I let it go. The next thing I know, I am moving to Santa Barbara. I am driving through LA traffic. I move here. I meet people. I am taking flying lessons.
I love it.
All right. By the same token, I still hold the position that my life's purpose is, what I do. And I suppose on another level, I should have let them do what they were going to do to give them their opportunity to serve. And I hadn't thought about that until now. But again, it's like you said before, the choices that we choose to make are very
And you can
interesting.
still live that life of service, whether you have sight or not, because you've
Exactly.
had the experience of not having it, and you
And this
know,
leads into this whole aspect of our beliefs, the transformation of beliefs. Greg Braden on this program said once from one of his books, The Healing Power of Belief, he said that one day we will no longer believe, we will know.
hmm hmm I
The
say that about fifth dimension. When you're in 5D, you don't have to believe anymore. You just know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't even know how you know. You just know. And things come out of your mouth, and somebody will say to you, how did you know that?
Hmm.
And you kind of go, I don't know. I just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that in lieu of what I talk about on this program regularly, and that is this concept of we encourage people during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to spend some time in that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place, listening to that still small voice. Call it your intuition, gut feeling. I call it my friend. And I believe, and I guess maybe I can say I know from firsthand experience, it will not lead me into harm's way. May challenge me, and it has, but the more you do that, in a manner of speaking, the easier it becomes. It becomes more second nature, doesn't it? And we get our
Mhm.
answers there, which allows us also to access something we'll talk about in a minute. But let's talk about our intuition in this line of conversation about the 5D?
In 5D, I like to teach people how to connect with their higher self, which is your fifth dimensional self.
Mhm.
And I give them a very logical, left-brained way to do it. You put in 6 weeks, you practice during that 6 weeks, and at the end of that time, your self connection has usually stepped in, and you can tell that it's not your mind or your thought or your ego. And there are plenty of times that people have told me, they want to do one thing, but then they check in with their higher self, and the higher self says, no, I don't think so. And it turns out very well. You could be at a junction on a freeway and ask your higher self, am I to take this freeway, or is it in my highest and best good to take the surface street? You get told, take the surface street, and you go down the road and you can see a big pileup on the freeway that you wouldn't have seen getting on the freeway. And that's a classic example where you can use your higher self. Freeway is always faster unless it isn't. And your higher self can tell you that. So intuition is a very wonderful leveling and then taking it up higher. Now, the reason I talk about intuition in one way and higher self in another is because your higher self, it just like you and I talked about earlier about having a way to know what's coming. When you use your higher self, you get access to choices that you're going to make. You're not asking about whether the weather's going to change. You're not asking about whether your friend's going to call. You're asking about your stuff. And so, is it in my highest and best good to accept this interview? Is it my highest and best good to go to the grocery store now? And what happens is your higher self will have awareness of everything you care about, plus the bigger picture. And I have been in so many instances myself where I asked my higher self, I would say to the people involved, I don't really want to do this, but I'll check in. And if my higher self says I should do it, I will. And sure enough, I get told, go ahead. And all kinds of wonderful things happen as a result.
Mm.
So the higher self connection gives you a layer of confidence and authenticity that you don't get with intuition.
Mm.
And intuition you can't call up on demand like you can with your higher self.
I found your description interesting, and I've had situations where I've been guided to take this path versus that one, the roadways specifically. And sometimes my response has been, I'm going to go ahead and go this way. And I take full responsibility. If this path takes longer, I'm going to relax in that. I'm not going to get all gnarled up and bent out of shape, as my dad always used to say. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to enjoy the drive because I'm driving. I didn't think I would be doing that when I was pre 36 years of age. And, um, and just, and just relax. I mean, just, and recognize that, yes, I could have gone that other way. And yes, it could have been faster and a much easier drive from that standpoint. But you know what? I'm okay. I'm not in a hurry. Okay. It's all
See that
right.
you're not really, your higher self would not even know that and
Yeah.
say, your higher self needs some more nature nurturing. And
Yeah.
it would say, take the scenic route. So you would,
Yeah.
even though your travel partner might say, yeah, but we got to get there.
Yeah.
Too bad.
A matter of fact, my wife and I were driving up to Nevada City, in north central California, I guess you'd call it, probably parallel to San Francisco. And we were taking I think it was the 101, and then we shifted across to the east to 99 was the number of the highway. And we got on, and it was just bumper to bumper. And so we both decided, you know what, we're going to get off at the next exit. And of course, we did have at that time the GPS, all that stuff. And we ended up driving through both rural and residential areas, no freeways. And it was a much better drive. Took a little longer, yes, but like you talked about, taking the scenic route, it was okay because we weren't in a huge hurry. We're just taking our time. And we got there feeling a whole lot less stressed because when we were on the 99, just trying to get off, we were kind of stressing, where's that exit? We got to get out of here.
Mhm.
Um, it's fascinating when we allow ourselves to be guided in that regard. And to me, that's still a choice. This is Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Maureen St. Germain, and we're talking about new paradigms for a new world. And in that light, I want to talk to you about changing the paradigm. Uh, do we really need to recognize what the current paradigm is to know that we want to change it, or is it pretty self-evident in that respect? And when we're talking about this paradigm, we have individual paradigms and we also have a collective paradigm, don't we?
Mhm.
Talk to us
Mhm.
about this process through living your best 5D life, uh, about making that shift or that transition, that transformation, however you want to phrase that.
The biggest shift each of us has to make is to stop judging ourselves and to stop judging each other. And when we do that, everything is easier and we can slide into 5D very quickly.
Mm.
It's this business of judging. And this is something I've encountered in the years of working with people and channeling the Akashic Records. Sometimes they have such an inner critic that they can project it out onto others. Sometimes that inner critic slows them down. So the idea is to kick the inner critic out and let them go on their way and not to allow the inner critic to have its way. And that's not easy to do. And it's a little bit like, the self-defense that we do, when you took that criticism and you thought, maybe there's something to this. I'll explore it, I'll hear it and see what, where it fits. And so you stepped out of that place of judgment. You're not judging yourself. You're not judging the listener. You're saying, okay, well, I'm willing to air it and speak about it.
Mhm.
That's moving out of that place of judgment. So each of us have our own way of stepping out of judgment. If you find yourself always frustrated with others, you're probably judging others. And if you find yourself frustrated with yourself, you're probably judging yourself. Most people don't have both all the time. They're either projecting it outwards or they're projecting it inward.
Mm.
And that's number one, to step out of 5D. And then there are many other things that help. Simple statements like I'm waking up in 5D. I'm asking for a day of heaven on earth for me and everyone I come in contact with. Like that creates the air of expectancy that says, I'm here to be in a place of peaceful enjoyment, like you described your little road trip.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting I use the word profundities that come up in these programs. A whole new word there, I think. Maybe it is a word. I remember when we talk about looking for those new ways of living because the old ways just don't work. All you have to do is look around. And we're looking to shift out of survival to thrival, not thinking that that was a word, thinking maybe I just invented a new word. And then I looked it up and I'm going, I invented nothing. I just became aware that that was a real word. Um, but we are looking for those new ways of living. We do want to thrive. There is that desire in each of us to discontinue the paradigm of survival, you know. And yeah, there are some instances where we're never going to escape that, especially when we're talking about, let's just say, natural disasters, earthquakes and floods and hurricanes and volcanic eruptions, and the list goes on. But at the same time that we stay diligent and aware of our surroundings too, there are also some new opportunities. And you actually start out in your book here. I've always felt that life has amazing opportunities. Talk to us about first of all, why you believe that there are amazing opportunities.
Um, I believe there's amazing opportunities because even when things don't go the way you want, when you handle it with love and compassion, there's always a silver lining. I'll tell a story that I was in Hawaii visiting my mother, and for my birthday, she wanted to go to a really nice resort in nearby and spend the night and have a nice birthday dinner. And so we got to our hotel room, and the man in the room next door to us was smoking, and the smoking bothered both of us. It was uncomfortable. We were coughing, and so I called downstairs, and they said, "Well, that's a non-smoking room. The guy shouldn't be smoking." And I said, "Well, can you ask him to stop?" So they dealt with it, and the man said, "I've been here for 3 weeks. Nobody's told me not to smoke. I'm not stopping now." So we said, "Okay, we understand." Um, and then the hotel came back to us and said, "Look, we're going to move you." And at first I didn't want to move because I'd unpacked, blah, blah. And I only had one night. But then I thought, no, let them move us. They put us in a suite. They put us on the concierge floor.
Hmm.
They had the most amazing concierge uh, stuff, food, everything you could think of in their lounge. And so we just relaxed. We never went out to dinner. We just had a fabulous time hanging and
Mm-hmm.
not trying to make something else happen. And this was all because we spoke up about something we didn't like, but we weren't screaming bloody murder. We were just something,
Right.
how can you solve it? And that's what I mean when I say marvelous opportunities await. When you give life, individuals, situations, the opportunity to solve your situation, the solutions are always better than what you would have come up with.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that we're even getting more of now that there's, as you called it earlier, this lighter energy
Hmm.
around everyone. So the opportunities are so much nicer. Somebody calls me um, and says something's not right. I'll just say, well, what can we do to make it right? Can we send you this? Can we take care of this? So I know across the board that we're finding our way in this reality to the most ideal outcome. And the more we are willing to live in our truth, what does that mean? It means that you don't tell lies and you don't tell white lies. You don't tell little fibs.
Hmm.
You're very candid, you're very honest. And that allows the universe to show you how abundant it is. When a person lies or tells little fibs, they're saying to the universe, there's not enough. Because if there were enough, I wouldn't have to tell this lie. If there
Hmm.
were enough, I wouldn't tell this fib.
Yeah.
So when we tell the truth, we're telling the universe, okay, bring it on, bring on the goodness. And it
Yeah.
does.
It was some time ago, and this just occurred to me just as you're sharing that. Um, 9 years ago, June 15th, uh, a gentleman came on the scene spewing negativity. And my first thought was, I would never hire that person, number one. Number two, this cannot go on indefinitely because no one can spew out that kind of negativity for an extended period of time without there being repercussions. Well, over the course of the last 9 years, there have been. But something occurred to me, even as we're talking here, in addition to the, shall we call it, karma, there is also an element within the universe, and I'll love you to expound on this, that eventually comes along to balance things. And that's what I believe has happened in the last few weeks here in this country, that has come along to help to balance things out and allow us to start looking at those new opportunities, those new paradigms, those new beliefs for that matter, are
Mhm.
transforming what we thought was true, what we thought we believed,
Mhm.
and even transforming it into, oh, I know this.
Mhm. Well, we get opportunity after opportunity to do things over until we choose to do things differently. And, it's a little bit like that movie Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
where you keep repeating until you finally get, oh, this is how I'm supposed to handle it. And then things move forward. And we bring things back around into our world when we haven't gotten the lesson. And I will never forget the time that I was in corporate, and there was an interaction where I was being accused of a behavior I was sure wasn't true. And I went home and stood in front of my altar and complained to my guides and the masters that I worked with, and said, if there was something in here for me, I didn't get it. And you're going to have to do it over again. Just like that, in a very sassy, obnoxious way. Now, remember, I wasn't as mature as I am today. So the very next day, I got a phone call from somebody way high up in my network, in my lineage of the organizations. And the first words out of his mouth were, Maureen, honey, you know I love you. And I said, yes, I do. And then he proceeded to tell me where I had been out of line, like I had been told yesterday. And he says, can I count on you to take care of it? And I said, yes, you can. No sweat. And I thought to myself, I will never do that again. I don't advise it.
Mm.
Don't ever say I didn't get it, because the minute you do, you're telling the universe, okay, fine, tell me again, show me again. And then, of course, his parting words are, I'm not going to tell your boss.
Yeah.
Thank God.
When it comes to the financial arena for me, I'm not saying I don't get it. I don't, no, it's like I got it. Now can we move on to something bigger and better? I want
And
those
that's what
bigger
I was
opportunities.
talking about.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I was talking
yeah.
about. The minute you announce it to the universe, then they say, okay, fine, we'll cover
Yeah,
you.
I got it. I've had enough of down here. I want to be way up here. That's where I want to be. I mean, as a matter of fact, I
That's
now
where
am
I am.
putting out there. I'm actually putting out there saying, I don't just want abundance and prosperity and a big banking. No, I will start. Universe, are you listening? I would love to. I want to start with $100,000. That's where I want to start. So bring it on. To
Very
to
good.
to
And
quote.
and I would say,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling how awesome it is. Make a list. There's an actual true story of a guy where I was in fundraising. And there's a true story of a guy who wrote in a journal every single day that he was going to win the lottery, and here was what he was going to do with the money when he won. And he
Mm,
did win, and he did fulfill all of his, I'll say, written,
yeah,
documents or whatever. So yeah, be the $100,000 person. And what are you
yeah.
going to do with it once you have it? And start writing that. And you're going to see something happen for
Mm.
sure.
You know what? I have a list in my little drawing book that was suggested to me when I was going through some counseling back in early 2024 over the passing of my father last year. And I've only of 13 items that are there, I've only crossed off two. But then again, as I told my brother about the awarenesses that I had when I was 33, it's not when you get it, it's that you get it. And in this case, it's
Exactly.
not when I finish, it's that I finish. And eventually I will. I'll get through them. And so that's going to be list number two. It's not going to be item 14. It's list number two. That's going to be my next list. And I will do
I
that
love
after this program. Maureen Saint Germain, she shares 5D tools and skills for transforming the world around you, including practical practices for thinking in 5D, accelerating your vibrational rate, transforming beliefs, and cleaning, as we talked earlier about cleaning your 12 DNA strands. I'm going to the car wash. That's where I'm going to get mine done. And she explains how to recognize when
it. Sounds really
when you are actively in 5D, and explains how to shift into the vibratory zone. Love being in that zone and stay there for unlimitless We're going to try that one. To stay there, to unlimitedly life, live your life in 5D. And you can get a copy of the book, Live Your Best 5D Life. We certainly hope that you will. It is available through Inner Transitions. And of course, you can go through her website, which, oh God, I love the name of your website. Not only the Saint Germain part, Mystery School. SaintGermainMysterySchool.com. We're going to be linked to that. And the next time we have you on, and we're going to have you on again at least three more times before the end of 2024 to talk. I want to talk about the Mystery School. That's just, I feel like back in the 90s, I was going through a mystery school of sorts through a gentleman by the name of George Adair, who had a program called Omega Vector and Delta Vector, and it was personal growth and development. And he would hold these Monday booster shots, as I like to call them, in the evenings at a resort in one of the banquet rooms. It was just fascinating. But I want to have you back to talk more about that. And we thank you so much for giving us this abundance of time. But I have three final questions I want to ask you. But thank you so much for sharing with us and for being a part of the work that we're doing here to help make this a better place for everyone.
Thank you for having me.
I thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m. That's our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. And then Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., that's following the news. And those we stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM with our podcasts. And our video cast is on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations and you can listen to and watch the beautiful Maureen St. Germain as we've been talking about her latest work. We also ask that if you can subscribe, we'd appreciate that, as well as click notifications so that when I post a new conversation, that you will be notified and you'll be able to tune in and listen in. We hope that you will do that. We also ask if you would like to be a part of the work that we are doing here and you'd like to support the work we're doing financially. We have a PayPal account. It's there for your security as well as ours. When they ask to whom are you sending, put in my email address, richard@richarddugan.com. That's richard@richarddugan.com. And finally, we also ask that you take some time during the decade of perfect vision. And we ask that you spend some time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listening to the higher self, that still small voice. With all of that being said, we move to our final three questions for a very special guest. And of those questions, the first is, who is Maureen St. Germain?
I'm known as the practical mystic. I'm an everyday person, a mom with four sons that are grown and happily married. I have in my world a incredible desire to know, and I've had the good fortune of being able to share that with others. So I'm just an everyday mom, but grown. I have grandkids, and I'm on a mission to help people be the best they can be.
What gets you up in the morning?
What's my
What gets you up in the morning?
oh, all the things I want to do. I wake up and I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. And I'm out of bed.
Finally, what was your best day?
My best day is right now, today, with you.
Well, we thank you for that, and we thank you for the time you've given us. And we also thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to all. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.